It doesn't look like it because of the stroboscopic effect of the video camera and the propeller, but the engine is already started. I'm just cleaning up the radios and getting ready to call the tower and tell them that we're ready to taxi. You can't hear the engine or the tower because although the microphone that I ordered did come in, I don't have the right adapter for it to work with the camcorder yet. We've gotten our taxi clearance to runway 22, so I'll just go down to the end of the hangars here and turn right. As we taxied down through the hangars here, I was surprised to see there's not too many people out flying. At this point, it was probably around noon and a beautiful day. 7-knot winds right down the runway and just essentially no clouds or visibility problems at all, but the place was a ghost town. It's a longish ride down to the runway. Here we're going past the FBO and some of the rental 172s. At least we're only going to runway 22, which is just down here at the bottom of the hill and to the left. If we were going down to the opposite end, it's about a 3/4 to a mile taxi, and it does take a while. Looks like the Beech 18 is gone. There's normally a Beech 18 parked there. I see the guy working on it a lot. Pretty neat old airplane. Just love the sound of those engines. As we're taxiing along here, I'm getting the GPS set to where I want to go, and I do a little mini mag check before I get down to the end of the runway. If there's a serious problem with either of the magnetos, it'll show up at a pretty low RPM, and it seems best to me to find that before I taxi all the way down here and have to come all the way back. Once I've got the plane set up for takeoff, which really doesn't take all that long, it's not much to do as we taxi along here. If we were going the other way down towards runway 4, sometimes you can see some coyote or deer down there, but going this way there's just not all that much to see. As we were taxiing along there, of course I was listening to the tower and looking in the pattern, and there's nobody in the pattern, so really it's just going to be a quick run up here at the end of the runway and switch over to the tower frequency, tell them we're ready to go, and we should get cleared right on out. Yeah, even though I've done a little mag check on the way to the runway, I go ahead and do the 1700 RPM mag check, looking for no greater than 125 RPM drop on either of the magnetos. I never really see more than 75 RPM drop on either of mine. And sure enough, no delays once we've got the run-up done. We're just going to taxi out here to the end of the runway. Now the wind today was 7 or 8 knots, mostly down the runway. Actually, a little bit of a crosswind. It was actually, I believe, out of 250, and this being runway 22, it would be about 30 degrees off to my right. And here the tail's going to come up. And you'll be able to see, there it goes, you'll be able to see when the tail comes up how it gets a little wobbly. We're going from steering with the tail wheel to steering with the rudder. But you could see right around that time, it was really ready to lift off. Now I'm holding it down just like I did in the last video you saw, waiting for 120 miles an hour. It's going to take a little longer. I've got somebody with me, and even when we do get there, it won't have that huge increase in climb that you saw when I was flying alone. The RV6 is very sensitive to weight. I can definitely feel the difference between half tanks and full tanks, and when I have full tanks or nearly full tanks like I did today and a passenger, it's a very different flying airplane. Now, that's not to say that it's a poor performer at gross weight, because it is definitely not. Here we're doing, I think, around 140 miles an hour and still climbing about 800 foot per minute. Now, it is a nice high-pressure day. I believe it was something like 30.72, and temperatures are low, which makes the engine happy. But still, even at gross weight, it's a good flying airplane. It's just significantly different than when flying alone. And of course I'm doing this on only 150 horsepower and a fixed pitch propeller. If I had 180 horsepower and a constant speed prop, you'd see a large difference. I cut out a few miles there, but here as we're coming up on Mechanicsburg, we see another airplane, and I pointed it out to Rick. And see if you can see him go by. It's coming by, it's off the wing right now, it's just going to go past Rick there. And a few miles later, here we are approaching Urbana. You can see the airport on the far edge of town there. I'll make a right turn here into the left downwind leg for runway 20. That'll put the wind pretty much down the runway. Again, maybe a little bit of a crosswind component. And you can see the airport off there to the left. As we head down the downwind, I'll want to get it slowed down to 100 miles an hour, which is the flap extension speed, right around the time we get to the end of the runway. Another difference when flying with a passenger is that I don't get the pronounced nose down effect when extending the flaps that I do when I'm flying alone. Just past this farm right here, I'll turn left base, and then we'll take a look out on the final and see if anybody's coming in on a straight-in approach. I'm keeping the airspeed between 80 and 90 miles an hour as I do this. With the wind that we have down the runway, I'll probably carry a little more down final than I normally would. I'll probably come down at 80. There you can see the flaps are down, and we're coming along the left base. I was looking back behind us. There was a Cessna 172 coming into the downwind behind us. I wanted to get a look for him, and there I'm looking out on the straight-in approach. Don't see anybody coming. So we'll just proceed here, and once lined up with the runway, I'll go ahead and turn final. I have to coach myself to remember that I'm going to need a little more power than normal since I'm carrying a little more weight than usual. And with the short stubby wings, it does make a difference. I'll carry quite a bit more power down here than I would if I was alone. The wind coming down the runway, again, we're fighting that all the way down, so I'll bring it down to 80 as we cross this road and then slow it to 70. I'm going to try for a wheel landing. You can see that the wind is a little bit off to the right as I bank into it to hold straight down the runway. You can see the standing water in the field there as we go over. That's why we decided to come to Urbana instead of going up to the grass runway at Mount Victory. Now what we'll see here is not one of my better landings. Got an initial bounce here, pretty good size right there, and then it bounces here. And here we get into the annoying little baby bumps that I get at the end of a bad landing. But I got it slowed down and made the first turnoff, which I like to do. I like to use as little runway as I need without abusing the brakes or the airplane in general. Mostly just to stay in practice for some of the shorter runways I go to up at Put-in-Bay and Kelly's Island.